Hello and welcome to the Jazz Journey with Doug Hall. My guest today is legendary jazz drummer Eric McPherson, a bandleader, composer, and instrumentalist. Welcome, Eric. We're excited to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So for the audience's sake, I always want to provide a little bit of a background of the artist's career. It never really covers the full range, but it gives the audience a foundation. Eric McPherson would be introduced to music and jazz at a very young age. Richard Davies, his godfather and an icon among jazz bassists, was a neighborhood friend of the family, and his mother, a superb dancer-choreographer deep into the jazz scene, was taking him to rehearsals and performances as a child. Her wide orbit of friends included many drummers, major jazz artists like Max Roach, Michael Carvin, Charles Moffett, and Freddie Waits. Later in his career in the 1990s, Mr. McPherson would join the saxophonist and bandleader Jackie McLean and his Quintet, along with Rene McLean, Palmer and Nat Reeves. For the next 15 years until McLean's death, McPherson was the Quintet's drummer, following in the distinguished footsteps of drummers Michael Carvin, Billy Higgins, DeJohnette and Tony Williams. Over those years, Mr. McPherson recorded 2 CDs with Jackie McLean and performed with him at major venues and festivals all over the Far East, Middle East, Latin America, Europe, the Caribbean, and the U.S. In addition to his touring and recording with Jackie McLean, Mr. McPherson has also performed with a wide range of major jazz figures, including Pharaoh Sanders, Andrew Hill, Richard Davies, Claudia Acuña, Jason Moran, Greg Osby, and Avishai Cohen. So in today's podcast, we are also going to talk more specifically about Eric's recent release, Double Bass Quartet. Eric has teamed up with 2 extraordinary jazz bassists, John Ebert and Ben Street, both of which have long experience together. The quartet is completed by one of the rising stars of jazz, Cuban pianist David Davies. So, Eric, once again, welcome. That's an amazing resume of an extraordinary period of time and intersections with other notable artists. More specifically about the formation of this band for this recording, could you just talk a little bit about the evolution of forming this band with 2 bassists, yourself the drummer and a piano, and how this all came to be?
Well, I'm kind of used to these types of combinations because really the first people that I played with was Nasheed Waits and Abraham Burton. Nasheed Waits plays drums, Abraham Burton plays saxophone. So for me, the makeup of the instrumentation can be whatever it is, you know.
Okay.
And there's a recording that I had done previously where, by mistake, actually 2 basses came on the same day. And,
oh, wow.
And I ended up just turning it into an opportunity to record that particular texture.
Right.
So
wow.
that kind of put the idea out there. And then in doing things with Jimmy, the opportunity presented itself that I could try it again, but only this time the focus would be on that particular texture that 2 basses get.
Got it. So kind of an accident is the mother of invention.
Yeah, you know, life happens, and then you move with it. You know?
Move with it. Well,
Yeah.
look, we're going to cut to the listening portion of the interview, and I chose your solo drum recording because I think it's a fascinating listening experience to really settle in and listen to the instrument or the drum and what you're doing there. So we can just start with that and then chat a little bit afterwards, unless you want to set it up a little bit.
No, I mean, I grew up, you know, around the drum and around drum master musicians, you know. So for me, for the drums to be able to express something is a natural thing,
Right.
Also, too, maybe putting it in another light, more than just kind of like a metronome piece, but you can also
Yeah.
create color and texture with drums. Max
Right.
Roach is probably the master at this, and Papa Joe, the way they could construct pieces with the drums.
Right.
So I'm definitely, a big part of me is coming from that.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, let's have a listen to solo drum on Eric McPherson's release Double Bass Quartet. Wow. Just for me, I often make notes for the podcast about different pieces of music that I listen to with different artists. To me, it's really a true listening moment, not necessarily a formal lesson in drums, but it's a way by which to tell the listener to tune in and listen to the instrument and to focus on the instrument. And
for sure.
The variety, the range of what you're doing there with the difference in the timbre or the tempo or the accents is really, it's really distinctive as you move through your composition here in the 5 short minutes that you have. And particularly to me, it tells about the range of the instrument. And you better appreciate the range of any instrument, whether it's a guitar, bass, or drums, if you can have somebody sit and have 5 minutes to express something on their instrument. And finally, the conversation, when you do settle and listen, the conversation is drums is 2 hands, right?
And 2 feet.
And, I'm sorry, and 2 feet, excuse me. It's 2 hands and 2 feet. So you have a conversation going on between what this hand is doing and what this hand is doing.
For sure.
Right?
For sure. There's definitely a conversation between all of the limbs are working together, in creating this picture or telling this story,
Right. So I'm so glad that piece was included, which was kind of a surprise. I thought, well, this is an easy choice. I'm talking to Eric McPherson, a jazz drummer, established legendary jazz drummer. This would be the piece that we're going to talk about. And so I'm glad we had a chance to listen to it quietly. Jumping to something very different in pace is, I'm going to mispronounce the composer's name, but I wrote a profile on him and I find him absolutely fascinating and brilliant. Is it pronounced Jackie Bayard?
Jackie Bayard.
Bayard, right?
Yeah, Jackie Bayard.
Wow, what an incredible influence on so many different pianists, his instruction, his mentorship, his legacy, right? In so many ways. Amazing.
One of the master musician.
A master musician. Yeah. So we have a composition of his called Cinco y Cuatro, which I guess means five? What is it?
5 and 4.
5 and 4, right. Cinco, 5, and Cuatro, 4, 5 and 4. So did you want to set up this composition at all, or we'll just talk about it afterwards, or do you want to talk a little bit about your choice for this piece?
Well, as with all of the pieces, the selection was democratic. It was democratic. You know, it was a democratic process. It was by no means a dictatorship. You know, it was like,
cool.
I definitely played music that I wanted to play, but it was music that came from all the musicians that participated. You know, it was like, you know, suggestions were made, and then I thought the tunes that we settled on were good, nice vehicles to explore this particular format.
Okay. All right. Well, let's have a listen to Cinco y Cuatro. Wow, that has such an uplifting pace and effect. I mean, obviously with the Latino and Calypso influence there, I mean, you almost feel like you want to get up and dance, or somebody already is dancing. It really, it's so uplifting, I guess, would be the word I return to. But you hear all the syncopated accents of the drums and the intermingling of the bass line, and then the overlay of the piano, and everything's moving. In motion. So,
yeah.
Wow.
Such is life.
Yeah, such is life. So I'm so glad that piece comes to a forefront, because I have to return to Bayard again to listen to some more recordings of his. But that's such a departure actually from some of the other compositions, which in the double bass quartet are really very quiet pieces. In many ways, they're listening pieces, and this picks suddenly the momentum right up. So, thank you. So, just a couple of questions. I wanted actually to touch on first, obviously, your childhood and the fact that you were amongst some amazing musicians through your family's neighborhood friends. We've talked about drummer Max Roach and the legendary bassist Richard Davies. And you came to the drums at a very early age. So I guess tell us a little bit about how you took a direction to drums, and if there is more of a direct influence by being around the sound of drums?
Well, I'd have to say, to bring a little more clarity. See, my mother was a dancer. She was a dancer,
Right.
so she worked with many musicians over the years, people like Duke Ellington and Cannonball
wow.
Adderley and Tito Puente. I mean, she is in a
Okay.
wide orbit
Yeah.
of people she knew. So we were at different stages, we were in different places. So, for example, when I was extremely young, she saw that I had a tendency towards, like, hitting on pans and stuff.
Okay.
So it was her idea to bring me to Charles Moffett at that time. So I'm a kid now at this time, and we're on the West Coast, and she brought me there. So that was kind of an early introduction. We were moving around quite a bit. And then we came back to New York. And when we came back to New York, this is where she introduced me to, there was a club in New York called Sweet Basil.
Okay.
Sweet Basil. And she said, "Oh, I'm going to bring you to a jazz club to meet somebody." I was like, "I don't want to go to a jazz club." She brought me down to the club, and that's where I met Richard Davies for the first time. And so basically, she was friends with him and my godmother, who were together at the time I was born. Basically, he brought her to the hospital when I was born.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so when I was born, my godmother, knowing that Richard was cool with Eric Dolphy, that's kind of where my name came from, that circumstance, and so this would be my first time meeting Richard from that time. So I'm about 11, 12 or something at this period, and so in the group that he had, which had Freddie Waits in it, who I happened to grow up with, his son, Nasheed Waits. So you see all of these, like, all of these, like, that kind of supplied my environment.
Yeah.
So then, and I would go to Jazzmobile with Freddie Waits early on. And then my mother introduced me to Michael Carvin when I was about 12 or 13. And that's who I started studying with lessons for about a 7-year period. So, so my mother was instrumental in knowing these people, for one. And then so she just put me in this different scenarios, at different stages. They all play like instrumental stages in my overall understanding of what the music is, and learning, and all of those led to everything that happened after. All, being around those people led to everything.
Right.
So these are like my formative years.
Yes.
These are just happen to be the people that they were. And that blows me away looking back on it now. I'm like, man, what are the chances somebody like Max Roach? I mean, these are like the best possible musicians that you could, their integrity is off the chart. Their knowledge of the history.
Right.
And they were all developed individual musicians,
Yes.
I mean, and so if you want to learn from something in your formative years, that's what you want to be around,
Absolutely.
So I feel like I won the lotto, I was lucky.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow. It's such a rich environment. I mean, people talk about, the environment has one impact, it has the other. It's like, environments can be really rich, and you can have a result that's really rich from the environment, whatever we're talking about here. And so, wow, that's so important. Or support from those that are looking over your life at that point. Support.
Yeah, I mean, it shaped my whole direction. I mean, it shaped your whole understanding of what the thing is. I mean, when you see the dedication that somebody like a Richard Davies had, where he's playing at a club for a week, and pretty much every day before the concert, he's practicing 3, 4, 5 hours before the hit. And so it's like you're just around this kind of stuff early, and you see, and then and then basically everything gets compared to that after that. It's like, oh, this is the level. Oh, this is what I need to be achieving. Oh, this is how I need to do that.
Right.
And so, and it just happened to be people like Richard Davies and Max Roach and Michael Carvin and Freddie Waits, supreme musicians. I mean, that's that's kind of my reason. That's how I'm here.
Yes,
it's like I'm not here without these people. I'm not here without these people.
Right. Yeah, that's
It doesn't happen.
yeah, that's very well expressed. I mean, you can transfer that to other artists in other fields who
Sure,
had that
sure.
moment, who had that mentor or support or group of people setting, in a sense, really the highest standard to say, this is where you start
Yeah.
and you stay here and move upward. So, hey, I was going to ask you a question about a relationship between drummer and bassists, and I guess the form of my question is, we know that there are many remarkable and extraordinary relationships between jazz drummers and bassists over the history of jazz. So from your point of view as the core rhythm section, what is the relationship like between you, the drummer, and the bassist? How are you really communicating tempo and the give and take? And I imagine a lot of it has to do with chemistry.
Oh man.
Right, that's a hard one.
Chemistry is everything. Chemistry is everything
Okay.
because depending on who you're playing with, that's going to determine where you lock in.
Oh,
You
okay.
know,
Right.
everybody
Okay.
has a different. Everybody feels the time differently. So you change one player in a group, and that changes the entire dynamic of how things happen. So when you're talking about the relationship between drums and bass, now you're talking about like how the tune is moving. That's like
Right.
that's the engine of the tune. That's the flow
Right.
of the tune. That's
Right.
why that's why that stuff needs to be in sync, because if the bass and drums aren't in sync, the tune's not going to flow.
Right.
So that's like and piano is in there too. It's like a rhythm
Yeah.
section working, as far as you have to work together in such a way to create the foundation of the song that you're playing, and all the things that make the song,
Right.
while on top of that adding some extra improvisational things to keep it interesting and keep it moving. But
Sure.
I mean, you're talking about the engine of the song now.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to
Drums,
express it. Right.
drums and the bass. That's the flow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the flow. So
Wow.
that's why you hear about certain combinations of people. Where it's like the flow is strong. Like Paul Chambers and Philly Joe Jones.
Right.
That was
Right.
a strong relationship.
Yeah.
Elvin Jones and Jimmy Garrison, another
Right.
strong relation. Different aesthetic, kind of
Yeah.
a different aesthetic, but you can hear the relation, how it's moving
Yeah.
together. And there's plenty of other examples, of people that created that kind of connection, that we should all be striving for.
Right.
So regardless of the player, because that changes everything, but the principle remains, where it's like you have to find that place where you can connect so that the tune can flow as smooth as possible.
Right. Wow. Well, that definitely, again, I like that word, the engine driver, in so many ways. Well, sadly, our 30 minutes comes to a close pretty quickly, but I wanted to, I guess, talk a little bit one last time about the double bass quartet release along the same lines of composition choices. Because you had, it's a quartet, it's four musicians, and two of them are bassists. Did that drive sort of a decision as far as the type of compositions that you would pursue, or it just was more of a creative choice? Or
Yeah, it was more of a creative choice. I mean, the tunes were, the tunes were, the tunes were just things that we wanted to play, and
Okay.
tunes that everybody was comfortable with, and tunes that we could create, like you can pick some music and you have to break out your abacus, and then you can figure it out,
Right.
and which is cool too. Like sometimes that's the case, but depending on what kind of time you have to work with, I'm more interested in what we can create together.
Yeah.
So if everybody is figuring out like where they need to be on a chart, then we're not
Right.
really focusing
Right.
on playing together. So
Right. Right.
I felt
Good
like
point.
we got, where each song is kind of doing something different from the other song, and to keep that interesting, and just vehicles where that texture could be the focus. So I was playing in a certain way to not overshadow that, and try to lend to it, but not play over it, so that could kind of come to the forefront.
Got it. Got it. Well, look, Eric, thank you so much for the time today. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I do often at the end of the program want to give you an opportunity to talk about any upcoming projects or performances in general?
Definitely some recording projects on the horizon.
Okay.
Something with Nasheed Waits, another drummer,
Okay.
and Abraham Burton, the two I was mentioning you,
Sure.
and the great Warren Smith,
Okay.
percussionist, 91. So there's some projects on the horizon that's going to include other sides of this equation, right?
Okay.
Two bases. So there's some other side. This is one side of that equation, but there's some other sides of that equation too. Two drums, different.
Got
Because
it.
you can get to some when you have two drums, then you can get to some different.
Sure.
You got the whole circumference of the rhythm at all of a sudden. The rhythm becomes 3D, 4D all of a sudden.
Right. Yeah. So
if you're doing it right, if you're with the right people with the right chemistry, it's not a competition. It's a musical exchange. So when treated with care, it can be a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Wow. Well, look, I'm going to look for your future recordings and projects, and wishing you obviously the best karma and positive vibes moving forward with whatever career and life directions take you. So thank you so much for being with us today, Eric.
And thank you for having me.
Okay, you take care.
All right, have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.